So bizarre. He's ready.
Okay, I forgot to mention that we're meant to pray. Alright.
Lord, I just thank you that we get to discuss the things of God.
Yeah.
I just pray that you'd give us the words to say. I pray that we'd speak directly to people who are listening.
Yeah.
I pray you'd bring conviction. Lord, you'd bring encouragement.
Yes.
You'd bring wisdom and direction. And it all just point to you and glorify you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Awesome.
Guys, thank you very much. Welcome back to Sheep to the Shepherd. This week I am joined by my two lovely guests. Welcome, guys.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is... Who do we have here today?
I'm Jeremy.
This is Claire. Hello.
And just out of interest, Jeremy and Claire, how
Yes.
do you guys know each other?
Well, we're dating.
We are.
Okay. And how do we know each other, Jeremy?
How do we know each other?
So I've known you for a little while now.
Yeah, a year and a bit, something like that.
Something like that coming up to.
Yeah, through church.
We did meet through church, that is correct. And obviously Claire, we have met through Jeremy.
Yes.
And Jeremy actually happens to be one of the student pastors at church.
Student leader.
Student leader at
part of
church.
the team.
And Claire's also joined that team, and they're both leading the students, university guys, quite well in it. So they're a good couple, so we thought we'd bring them on and hear what they have to say.
Sounds
Nice.
good.
So guys, I know you're together, but I do want to get into you individually
Alright.
and get to know you a bit. So Claire, could you tell us a bit about yourself, please?
For sure. It's a very broad question.
Who
But
you are, what you do.
My name is Claire. I have been brought up Christian. I was born and raised in Glasgow. It's the first time moving out of home. Just moved down to Sheffield a couple months back. Currently I am working for an organisation called Ashiana, who basically work as a support work position where I'm helping victims of human trafficking to kind of reintegrate into society. One of my kind of biggest passions is to help hurting people or help people that are,
Yeah.
have been through pain in their life. So I took that job thinking that would kind of fulfill that desire, but it's actually opened up a kind of different desire to get into counselling. So
Right.
that's my kind of current path I'm beginning to walk down now. I want to become a qualified counsellor. So yeah.
See?
Yeah.
And Jeremy, please give us a bit about yourself.
Bit about myself. I'm Jeremy. I've lived in all sorts of different places. Grew up in-
Yeah, please break it down for us because it's a lot.
I was born in Oxford. Moved up to Malaysia when I was 7. Grew up over there. Came back. Went to Lancaster for uni. Ended up in Australia for a bit. Was down in Bristol, and I've moved to the Sheffield area about a year and a bit ago. Maybe probably almost 2 years now. And I work for Derbyshire Council. I work in highways. I've done a few other bits and pieces. I used to do youth mentoring. Was a kind of a youth pastor for a little bit.
Yeah.
For a church in Bristol. And here we are.
Yeah. As you can see, there are people who love helping out, love helping the community, as did Jesus.
Yes.
Very true. Role model.
So I'm interested. Obviously, you've been all over the world. You're from Glasgow. How did these two people meet and come to be together? How does that happen?
Shall I tell the story?
Go on.
we met through Instagram.
Is that so?
Yeah.
I don't know if you actually knew that or not.
I knew a little bit, but it's not for me. It's for the viewers.
We met through Instagram, which I never thought I'd be that guy. I was up in
I'd be that girl.
I was up in Edinburgh for a wedding and was looking for kind of a church to go to the weekend and ended up coming across her profile and thought, wow, it's public. I saw, there was stuff about like her faith and some worship, bits of worship, and I thought, wow.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to message, and then she came up again and like suggested friends 3 weeks later.
Okay.
And I thought, what have I got to lose? Let's just send her a message, get to know her a little bit, and kind of just see if something happens. And then a year and a bit later, here she is in Sheffield.
What about from your angle, Claire? I'm interested.
I mean, I've said this a couple of times, but when I first got message on Instagram, I didn't think much of it. I was like, I was just a random guy on Instagram. Also lives. I went on his profile, obviously lives in Sheffield. Never going to meet him, and I just replied with the help of my sisters, kind of as a laugh. To just be like, just reply for fun of it. But we kind of got talking, and all our conversations at the start were just about faith and revelation and our own kind of testimonies. And I kind of viewed it as like a Christian pen pal. I was obviously like, okay, this is a really cool guy. But I just did not think, the gaps would be
that it would happen.
But yeah, it was just really faith based, kind of really solid friendship.
It was.
And then,
And obviously, so how long have you guys been together now?
Yeah.
About a year.
Yeah,
and
a bit.
I know a large portion of that has been long distance.
Yeah.
It has, yeah.
And whatnot. So how have you guys kind of navigated that? What's it like to date over such a distance?
Yeah, I mean, we made it work, didn't we? We had to be like super clear on a few things and make sure our communication was...
Yeah.
It's a bit strange as well because it's long distance with someone who you don't know.
Yeah.
Which is a whole different dynamic.
It's different from starting out being like kind of, living in the same city and then going apart or something like that. Like we'd never lived in the same place.
No.
So it's different in that sense. But yeah, we had to get definitely communication.
Yeah, we made sure we're clear on like our patterns of communication as well.
Yeah.
Like we were very understanding. Like if she's not replying to me, it's not, it's not because she's not interested or whatever. Like we have to be really
intentional.
Yeah, mindful as well, and just make it work. So we weren't. I don't know. Yeah, it did work, didn't we? We weren't getting annoyed at each other.
It's working.
We made sure that we had a good pattern of when we would see each other. We knew when we were going to see each other. Just those kind of things.
It definitely takes a lot of intentionality because you have to obviously, there's a lot of trust that goes into like long distance. And as you said, when you don't actually know the person, you have to trust. So in order to do that, you have to kind of be really real with each other and I think we navigated quite well.
I think we navigated well as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I know for us as guys, like feelings, we don't really. Well, sometimes we can go through life not really thinking, but in my experience, I know girls typically need a lot of, say, reassurance or whatnot. So what about him really kept you secure in the fact that there was something worth chasing when you were so far apart?
That's a good question. I definitely just think faith and like his pursuit of God was obvious and clear.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more reassuring to me or attractive than if your partner's chasing God. Like more than chasing you. Like that's to me is far more. There's more security in that.
Yeah.
Because that's the type of relationship I want to build. I want to be in a relationship that is God first. That is both individuals pursuing Him, and then each other. But so I think there's a lot of security I found in that, seeing his faith and relationship with God.
I think I tried to be honest and open as well in our relationship. Like even on our first date, I'm telling her challenges I've had in the past that I'd overcome. I'd put the work in and overcome them, but I brought that up, and I don't know if that.
No, it definitely does. That's very true. He's very honest. That's part of his character. He's very wears his heart on his sleeve, so it's easy to trust that, or to I can see I'm not getting like a fake version of you. Like it's very honest and open, and
I think the other thing I tried to do was vocalize where I stood with her, like what my thoughts were about you, so you weren't guessing. Like I thought, I tried to be as clear as possible. Even when I first went up, like I'm not coming to see you as a friend, like this is a date. And then I was clear. I thought I was clear as well. Like I want to date you and pursue you, and this is how I envision our, it looking, how often I'm coming up, what we're doing. I also, the first time we said let's date, like I asked her to date me, to be my girlfriend. I also talked about like the boundaries I wanted to set.
Yeah.
In terms of like what I believe, my convictions. I don't know if that was also
for sure.
helpful and reassuring.
And even just saying like where you see your future and like you know, just this is who you are. But yeah, definitely being open about all of that was very reassuring. And setting clear guidelines or the clear like
this is what the relationship is going to look like.
Yeah. And what
we're basing on it. Yeah.
You're good at that.
I'm glad.
No, I'm glad you mentioned boundaries, because I think a lot of relationships fall at those kind of hills.
Sure.
When you're in this, it's almost impossible for you to be around the person that you're with all the time, or to be reassuring them in everything you're doing.
Yeah.
So I think those clear boundaries are important. What kind of boundaries would you say that you set?
Yeah, 100%. I think when we talk about boundaries, just to some clarity, we believe, obviously maybe not obviously, but we believe that there are certain things that are set and designed for marriage.
Yeah.
Like intimacy, sex, or like that stuff's not for now.
Yeah.
And there can be certain grey areas where the Bible's not specific about this. But we really believe and we're convicted, have the conviction that we want to pursue full purity within our dating. We want to fully honor God and fully honor the other person and build a marriage that's not based on lustful, selfish desires.
Yeah.
And so where you can see where the line is, I guess. There's specific things that are like, right, we're not going to go there. Our boundaries are way before the line.
Yeah.
So we're like, right,
I like it.
Yeah, so we're not trying to get as close to the line as possible. But again, we're actually putting things in place so we don't.
Secondary lanes.
Yeah, so we don't even have the opportunity to get to
that point.
The lines. So our boundaries have changed over time.
Yeah, they have to. I think you have to constantly kind of let them evolve and have that conversation regularly.
Yeah,
like we've learned that though as well. Like you can't just. I mean, we've known that, but we've also learned it as we've gone along. Like you can't just set a boundary and then right. That until the day we're married is fine. That's the boundary done. But you have to come back to the table and go, okay, well, we're going to adjust this here. We're going to,
Which is really hard because it's often like, oh, I fear bringing that up. Like you can get those thoughts and feelings and it can be quite difficult. But no, I think some key boundaries some of the things that I would encourage like dating couples to put in place would be things like curfews.
Okay.
Things like... mine's gone blank. Like what you do together. Like, are you going to be like we one of ours was not being alone together if we could help it. Just stuff like that where we're not setting ourselves up. Like we wouldn't go in each other's bedrooms. Like stuff like that where we're not actually given the opportunity to even get to the lines. And
even just the way that you're doing dates and stuff as well can be like
100%.
If you're just like, oh, we're just gonna like watch Netflix every time we hang out or whatever, just like just be like at the house all the time. Like if you change up the way you date and like make it fun and go out and do things, like it makes things so much easier. And like I feel like it's such a tendency in this generation to just be like, oh, I'm just going to Netflix and
and also
that is like
that's the standard.
And you only get a season of dating once. Like once you're married, and I think so many people have the mindset of, and I've been tempted with this, is let's just get to the marriage bit where we can, that's where the good stuff happens. But actually, like dating's fun. And like enjoying the season of dating and getting to know each other. And the anticipation of the good stuff is also like that added excitement as well. Like it should make the dating.
It's supposed to be fun.
100%. And I think we do have fun.
Yeah, we do.
And it is exciting, and we're not trying to just wish away the dating season.
For sure.
So my thoughts on that one.
I like the fact that you've mentioned your boundaries, because of course the things that you set. Somebody said to me recently that the things that you abstain from in a relationship before you're married, or the things that you desire but don't tap into it's not just from a place of honoring God. You honor God by then also honoring your lady.
100%. Yeah.
So there's a level of, we're not going to do this, or from your perspective as the leader, as the man, I'm not going to do this because of the level of respect I have for this woman.
100%.
And then that is edified by the fact that you have that level of respect for God.
Yeah, I think women, should definitely look for a man who's going to value her and who is able to deny himself, have self-control and say, I'm actually honoring her, that I don't get access to all of her until I've made that commitment for her to have my whole life.
Yeah.
Like, I'm giving all of myself to her. And I'm not going to prematurely take and take what's not mine to take just yet. But I love her as a person, and not just as what I can get from her. And so waiting until marriage actually says that. It says you're so valuable. And also like self-worth as well. I recognize that.
Yourself.
That I'm not just for anyone to have access to.
Absolutely. It's true.
And I think also a lot of people say, well, I'm decided this person's going to be my wife, so why not just but you haven't made the commitment, and you haven't entered that what we call a covenant, which is saying no matter what happens, we're not separating, we're joined as one. And so making that decision to, no, we're not crossing these lines, these boundaries, until we're fully giving our lives to one another is so important. And you're building a marriage then that's based on other things rather than just the physical.
That's true.
Which is so important.
Massively important. Even when, like, choosing who to date, like a lot of people will choose the physical things. Whereas I have my 3 pillars of so I talk about this a lot, and I'm very proud of my 3 pillars of compatibility, on knowing who to date, which are the physical, which we've talked about. You kind of do have to be physically attracted to the person, but it's the least important, because the physical at some point is going to fade away, it's going to change people's bodies, whatever. Then you've also got the emotional compatibility, right? So that's the ability to get on with one another, like so it's like liking the same things, having similar emotional maturity. And the third one, which is the most important, is spiritual compatibility. And that's similar convictions, similar beliefs. And the reason that that's so important is a marriage is, I believe anyway, like I'm talking a lot about it, I haven't gone there yet. But I think it's the ability, it's making decisions together and moving and navigating the challenges of life.
You can't do that
if you're not lined up, and if your decision making isn't from the same convictions. And so your spiritual compatibility is the most important, because it's how you navigate the challenges of life together, which is what marriage is about. And you can be physically attracted to someone, and if you're not able to navigate the challenges of life with them, then you're just going to be miserable. And then the physical stuff's going to fade away, and then you're left with nothing. So that 3, or if you are choosing who to date, working through those 3 areas is super helpful. You can easily tick potential people off, or go, I'm not going to waste my time and their time, because I can clearly see that we're not compatible in this area. And it doesn't mean you have to be perfect. That person has to be perfect in those areas, but there's compatibility, which is quite different. Like, you're never going to find someone who's absolutely perfect, but when I first met Claire, I was like, she's ticked those 3 boxes and more. Things that was secondary issues. And I was like, this stuff's not even important, but she ticks them. So God's got you. And when you choose to pursue his best.
Yeah.
Following that mindset of those are the priorities. He blesses us with more, I think.
Yeah, good.
I can't remember what the original question was.
You've answered it in tenfold. What I did want to ask you was, obviously, Claire, you detailed that one of the things that kept you grounded in your relationship or when you were apart was the fact that you could see what he was, the values he had in terms of his relationship with Christ. In terms of you, Jeremy, obviously you're the one, you shot the message, you fired the message. What kind of things then meeting Claire and coming to know her a bit more, besides obviously her looks and the fact that she looks like a woman, because everyone can look like a woman of God, a man of God on social media, but what then attracted you or then held you when you were now getting to know her personally?
I mean, I went through that process in my mind of these three areas of compatibility. So her spiritual maturity was most important for me. When we were chatting on voice message, before I even met her, before I even met with her, I fell in love with her. This was from...
we love to see. Sorry.
And I know that's intense, I know that's crazy, but from what she was sharing, like I'd never seen her talk. I couldn't really, I had a vague picture in my mind. We can't really, unless you see someone and actually hear, you don't actually know what they're like. But from the revelation she was sharing, and she'd shared a lot of her journey and she was honest with stuff, and there was a lot of wisdom in things she was sharing that I was like, this is someone whose heart is clearly in the right place. She wasn't perfect. Like, she shared a lot of her journey, but how she pursued God in the midst of it, in the midst of challenges, in the midst of mistakes and trials and things like that. I was like, this is someone who's clearly got it. And then obviously I drove up to Glasgow and then met her for the first time. And for me, all I really needed was for that click. And then, because I'd already heard her heart. I like that. Like, the conversations we had weren't surface level. Like,
she's blushing.
Like, they weren't surface level. Like, we were chatting about real stuff. And so all I needed was that click. And when we went to an Italian restaurant, and when I saw her walk through those doors, I was like, I can see this going somewhere. Not like see this going somewhere. I was like, this is someone I want to date. I knew immediately. And then when we started talking, it just, it was a lot of stuff we'd already talked about. But it was real stuff. And I just knew, like, this is someone who's clearly grounded, who's clearly spiritually mature, who's clearly emotionally mature. And then we got on. We had fun. Like, we just went around a lake and had a bit of a laugh. It was a bit, we didn't know each other, so it was a bit awkward and tense, but I knew what I was looking for, and I very quickly ticked the boxes. So unless there was any major red flags, I was kind of good to go. She was a bit more hesitant. Like this dude who messaged me on Instagram.
You both mentioned that, of course, you look at each other as people after God's heart. So I'm interested now. I kind of want to strip it back. Claire, Jeremy, individually, how did we get to this point of being after God's heart? What
individually?
Just a bit of your upbringing. Are you from homes of faith? What are your parents like? How's your relationship with God look like as you've aged?
It's a good question. Personally, my kind of brief summary of life. Brought up in church, solid Christian home, got great parents, both very involved in church. My dad taught at Bible school at my church. Was one of the teaching pastors, and sisters both worship leaders, kind of that kind of upbringing. And always knew God. I think I got baptized in the Holy Spirit and speaking in tongues at like 13. And I don't remember making a specific decision when I was like a kid. I just kind of always loved God. I must have made a decision along the way at some point. I've kind of always had that relationship. But as a lot of people do, especially teenagers that have been brought up in that environment.
Mhm.
I went through a phase of struggling with like the world and being tempted to be led astray, and I made some bad decisions along the way as well. But I always knew God was there, and was quite quick to come back to my faith and come back to God. But I feel like I needed to feel, do you know, when, like, if you've experienced the world, like a lot of people who've maybe become a Christian later in life and make a decision, they've experienced what it's like to be like, to not have God, and then you come in and you know God's love. I feel like when I so I was about 20 at the time, but I remember coming back to God and feeling like I'd like experienced God's love properly for like the first time. Because I'd loved Him my whole life. I genuinely had a great love for God, but I hadn't really experienced what it was like to be forgiven and be properly like, even just in my failures and in my mistakes, God chooses to love me, and God His love is truly unconditional. So I had that kind of that moment. But a big part of my journey as well was when I was in school. I got diagnosed with a chronic disease. So for three and a bit years of my schooling, I had to drop out. I was in and out of hospitals, and I basically was like bedbound for a couple of years. And that kind of took me out of church and out of community, and really made me question God's hand on my life. So that was kind of the big struggle of my life, one of the big challenges I faced. And through that, again, like prior to that, solid relationship with God, going through that challenge really tested me and really made me question like if God really did, love me, or because I was like 4 years total that period of my life. And through that I had lots of ups and downs. But towards the end of that time, I had to make a decision on whether I was going to choose to still love God through my trials and choose to follow Him despite challenges I was facing. And I did. I made that commitment, and I made it actually in church in a praise and worship night we were having that I'd managed to get to. Hadn't been to church a number of months prior to this because of the illness. Managed to make it to this prayer meeting, and made that decision in my heart during worship that God, I'm gonna follow you, I'm gonna love you, I'm gonna choose to live my life for you regardless of what challenge I'm facing, this or otherwise. And I received healing that night completely, and went back to the doctors I was seeing and stuff days after, and they had no idea what happened in me, wow. So I received radical healing, and since then that's the big kind of I guess testimony in my life. I've there's so many other testimonies and other things that God's done in me, but that for me is just kind of testament to God's love for me, but also I'm grateful that I actually was able to walk through that season. I wouldn't change it for anything, because it's helped me. It's given me the empathy to relate to other people, to love other people, to use pain or use things that I've walked through to then relate to others. And God's just been really faithful to me. But a lot of goodness.
Somebody said to me recently that in seasons of difficulty, when we're praying for God to make good of things, it's never a case of the enemy does something bad and then God makes it good. It's a case of things happen, but God has already ordained good to come from whatever is happening. So I think it's quite interesting that you look back on it now, and though I can't even imagine what that was like, there's a sense of, from how I'm receiving it, almost not gratitude, but a sense of I appreciate what this did for me. And it's a testament to God's grace and to God's power.
Trials refine us, don't they?
They do. And God turns, it says that God turns it all things around for your good.
Exactly.
It's easy to get annoyed and frustrated at God in the midst of challenge. And why isn't He taking this away? But when we look back, we can go, no, God's hand he was in this, and he was carrying me through it.
It's hard to get that distinction of like, God doesn't cause the trial, doesn't give you the battle, but he's with you in it.
He walks you through it.
Yeah.
And he strengthens you from it.
Yeah, 100%. It can totally, if you allow it to, shape who you are and shape your character and prepare you as well for what the calling is on your life or what God's plans are for you. So I'm grateful for the challenges I've faced. Don't doubt there'll be other ones, but I choose, so make that commitment that you're gonna choose to keep God first in it and allow his grace to carry you through.
I mean, I'm lost for words because I had no idea about this, but it's an incredible testimony.
Yeah.
Jeremy?
Yeah, well, my story. It's probably pretty similar. Grew up in a Christian home throughout teenage years and towards my later teens. Started kind of got a little bit wild. Drinking, partying, living a bit of a promiscuous lifestyle, and was 19 in Australia. Did a year out there when just reached a pretty low point. I had just one foot in, one foot out, and it was just tearing me apart. And there was just one night, and I was just like, what am I doing with my life? Like, what am I doing with myself? Just mistakes that I was constantly making, not wanting to. And I'd been on a pretty big night out, and I was just making these mistakes. And I was like, this just hurts. And I just cried out to God, and I said, like, God, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like, something needs to change. And I just felt him say to me, like, quite clearly, so are you going to go all in? And I was like, I have to. I have to. I was like, God, how do I do that? And it happened to be baptism week that week at church. And one of the guys from church called me and was like, I was quite new to the church. And he was like, Jeremy.
It wasn't a C3 church, was it?
No, this was out in Australia. No, it wasn't. With my previous one. And he was like, have you been baptized? And I was like, no, I haven't. He's like, do you want to? Like, yeah, this is my all-in moment. So I was 19 at the time. Got baptized that Sunday, and that was a Wednesday, I remember. It was a few days later. Attended the course that night, got baptized on the Sunday, and that was a massive turning point for me because it was potentially even my salvation moment where I was like, you know what, I need to go give my whole life to Jesus, not just parts of me, but all of me. And it's been a journey since then. I had to deal with a lot of the consequences of my mistakes, and deal with a whole bunch of stuff that had happened to me, like throughout childhood and teenage years. I had to navigate the impact that was having on me and the decisions I was making and wrestling with and struggling with. And obviously we're talking about kind of relationships today. I had to go through kind of, like love and lust and all that stuff was a big part of my life. I used it as an identity void filler. It made me feel something. And so what I had to do was really dig into, what had caused those feelings. To get set free from a lot of stuff. I had to deal with like my porn addiction and all sorts of stuff and promiscuous lifestyle.
That's the real.
To then went through a season of just not pursuing women, not dating. 19 to 25.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But I was like, I can't bring this garbage, this nonsense, this stuff, this struggles, this identity voids, the hiding things into a relationship. And I can't bring it into a marriage because I was like, this is going to kill my relationship. This is going to kill my marriage if I don't address this and deal with this. And so, I went through quite a long time of doing work, and I had to get real with people, which hurts. Like, you don't want to bring people into your mess, and mistakes and challenges. But, there was stuff where I was like, I'm bringing this to the grave with me. God gave me 2 years with it before he convicted me and said, you can't carry this anymore. Like, this is going to kill you. And we think, it's just, it's the back of my mind. Like it's gone. It happened. No one needs to know.
Yeah.
But the reality is we carry it with us.
Yeah.
We carry stuff with us. And if we don't offload it, we don't work through it, and we don't recognize, right, what are the beliefs that I learned about myself from these events?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many that we don't even realize what's going on in our subconscious. So I had to really put hard work in, to address these things. And then when I started dating Claire, like I said, I was honest.
Yeah.
I told her about all the challenges. As you know, there's no mistake that I've made that she's not, major ones that she's not aware of, because I did the work in and I was able to have those conversations with her. And again, I don't know how I've got here because it's not answering the question, but in terms of godly dating, it's so important to live a life of honesty. Like, I need to be as open as I can with Claire, and to be able to do that, I've got to work on myself and get rid of my junk before we start dating. And so a big question people ask is, how do you know if you're ready to date, or if the other person is ready to date? Yeah. And there's an incredibly good analogy that you've told me, which you probably say it better, about the halves and the whole and multiplication.
It's like, if you're like a half person, and the other person's a half person, when you come together, you're not added. It's not a half plus a half equals a whole. It's a half plus a half, or not half times a half is a quarter. You're like tiny things. So like you're when you're joined together, you're actually two half people make even less of a person. So you need to be two whole people to be multiplied and just become one still. It's like two.
Which is so true, because all the issues and challenges we think get solved in a relationship. Go, once I get a relationship, once I'm in marriage, then I'll be okay. Then I've got what I need. But the reality is, the challenges and the insecurities and the struggles always multiplies, always intensifies, and you're bringing someone else into that space. And if you're not in a secure, you don't have to be perfect, but in a secure place with God and in God, which is why it's so important to pursue, if you're a Christian, to pursue another Christian, because if you're not in that place, it's just going to intensify the issues that you carry. And so for people who are looking to date or to get married and are going, I don't know if I'm ready, then you need to work on yourself. You need to identify those issues and not go, when I get into a relationship, I'll be the godly boyfriend. Be the godly boyfriend now. I heard this great saying once. This is so good. It said, stop spending so much time looking for the one and start being the one.
I've heard that so.
It's good, isn't it? But
it's just like, be the person you would want to.
Yeah, exactly. Be the godly man that a godly woman's going to look for.
Exactly.
Or the other way around, be the godly woman that a godly man's going to look for.
You can attract someone at your level.
Yeah. I hear so many times like people saying, I don't know where's my perfect partner, and where's the good guys, where's the godly guys? Like, well, you're not living a godly lifestyle. The godly guy's looking for a godly woman. And the other way around, obviously. And that applies to so many areas, like fitness as well. Like anyway, we're just going down that route. But working on yourself to become the person that you would want. Again, I've kind of gone down there.
You haven't. You've answered well. No, I think it's good that you've gone into that, because there's a couple things. First of all, I'm a big believer that one of the biggest issues in relationships or in like society now is people feel entitled to things that they're not entitled to. So like, if I want a relationship, I should just be able to have one. And obviously you've mentioned that it's important for you to get right with yourself, to get right with God, before you then expect God to I think, especially as men, we should get to a point of being like, I shouldn't expect God to give me or to trust me with one of his children, because that's what we are at the end of the day, until I am ready to honor that person.
100%.
And I've got a big thing. You've mentioned marriage a few times today, and obviously we're talking about dating and not rushing that process. But in order to be that kind of godly man, and to set the good foundations to have a healthy relationship like you guys have. I think it's important to lean into scripture and to shape yourself to be the type of man that scripture calls a husband to be as a boyfriend.
Yeah,
or just as a man, which will then lead you into being a boyfriend, which will then lead you into being a fiance, which will then lead you into being a husband, and vice versa as a woman, and so forth. Do you know what I'm saying? For example, me, Paul, or Saul into Paul, is one of my biggest inspirations in the Bible.
Yeah.
And the letters of Paul, there's bits in, I think, 2 Corinthians, where he details the instructions for a Christian household. And I live with that now. Me just, well, I won't reveal whether I'm dating or not, but me not as a fiance or as a husband, but leaning to try and shape myself to honor those kind of values now.
Yeah,
so that those are things that are just natural to me when I'm in a relationship.
Of course.
Because you've talked about things that like doors you had to close and things you had to leave behind. And how those things have now, and the fact that you're able to be honest with Claire about those things, they now set those foundations. You don't have to worry about things from your past, because a relationship's going to present all different kinds of issues, like you said, but you don't have to worry about the added stress of things that were in your past 100%. Now attacking you and leaving those open for you to fall back into. And for example, you mentioned porn or whatnot. That is something that you falling back into in a way could affect Claire.
100%.
And you've been entrusted with Claire. That's she's now to a degree your responsibility, and vice versa. I mean, so I think it's quite interesting that you mentioned that. But also just identifying the fact that it is also, like you said, it's good to honor the fact that dating is a process, and it's good. Let's not rush to the idea of marriage. Let's not blur the lines between valuing marriage values. Like, I think it's great to have counsel from people who are older than you,
100%,
who are in those positions. Like, I look at people who've been married for 50 years and I'm like, I love this, because this man is still a man of God, this woman is still a woman of God. And for me, all the people, the fact that somebody can know what I know now and 50 years later still have that same love and desire for God, and for the person that I'm like, this is wow. Before I came to know God, something like that didn't make any sense. When you're out in the world, that there's no way to quantify that. So even for you guys, I look at you guys and I'm like, these are people older than me who are setting the example of what a healthy relationship looks like in Christ. What I'm interested in is, I think it's important that you set a precedence that God comes first.
Of course.
So how do you guys honor that? For example, I'm sure there's things you would have done to edify your relationship with God, things you would have done to edify your relationship with God before you came to know each other, and then how have you also opened spaces to then bring those things together and do things together?
Of course.
Go
for it.
I think it's just like you said, obviously things you do before and things you do together. I think it's doing those things together. And so obviously the kind of common ways you would obviously seek God, praying and reading the word and spending time in worship and all of that. Doing those things with your partner is, I think, really important. And bringing them into that space. As a practical way of putting God first.
And to drill home, you're not going to do those things together if you don't do them by yourselves.
Very true.
Yes.
You need your own personal
that comes first.
Walk with God. Your own daily devotional. And then when you are together, it's praying together. And you need to be intentional about those things. And it's we've had to say many times, we just keep forgetting, and we have to keep going back. Let's pray.
You make it a habit and you make it a discipline.
Let's put Bible study dates in place. Let's bring God into the situation. We try and ask one another questions. We're reading a book together, which we discuss with one another. And we just try and put as many things. You've got to be intentional. So we try and put as many things as possible in there, because ultimately, if you're not intentional, you just go to the default. And the default is always the wrong direction. And so you have to work And the key is working. You got to work. If you ever want anything good in life, you got to work for it.
Yeah.
And so all healthy relationships, I believe, have to have work in place.
Yeah, for sure.
And so to steer it in the direction that we want it to go in. And you mentioned as well having what we call accountability.
Yeah.
People in our worlds who we talk to, who I wouldn't make any major decisions without being accountable to at least one person. It says in Proverbs, like a wise king doesn't go to war without counsel.
Yeah.
You don't make these big decisions. You don't start big life stuff without first checking with trusted people.
Yeah.
And so we've got people in our worlds who we journey this dating life together, who know the challenges that we're walking through, who know the decisions we're making. And when you can bring stuff to people, and when you talk about it, it breaks the power it has. And so the more you talk, the more you journey with people, the more you get wisdom, the easier it is to live a Christ-centered relationship. So I think that's kind of how we do it. Well, we've done it. It seems to be working all right. I would encourage every single person, like even choosing who to date. Like, if you feel, is this person the right person? Like I remember when bringing Claire down, like it's so important for me that my family, because I trust my family, and my pastors approved of Claire, because I trust their judgment, and my judgment can be clouded if feelings are involved.
That's true.
And I know it's the same for you. Like I met her family 2 days after meeting Claire. She brought me around and we had dinner there. And that meant a lot to me actually, because it showed me that she wasn't going to do her own thing. That she was actually going to check with her family whether I was, the right kind of partner, because it showed me she was accountable. She didn't just do her own thing because she felt like it, but was submitted to others. It doesn't mean doing everything everyone else says, but it means seeking wisdom, seeking counsel.
100%.
I mean, that in itself is a level of accountability. Not saying that you should introduce people to your parents to meeting them.
Listen, because of the long distance thing, I was like, I want to know right now. If I'm included, let me know.
But with the fact that you've done something like that, you've now opened the level of accountability from your family on yourself.
Yeah, for
that if they were to see you doing something like, well, didn't you just introduce us to Jeremy the other day? Which is good. It shows a level of honesty, which I'm sure
100%.
your mind.
Yeah, we tried to be as open with people about our relationship as we can, because it means that we are, if we're being transparent, we're doing things, we have to do things in the right way. Right. If you start doing things hidden and not saying, then things get blurry and stuff. So we're as honest, like with parents as well.
Both had that set up though, like
100%.
I've always had that with my parents and stuff. Like they have an open voice into my relationships and into my life. Obviously, that's not the case for everyone with their parents, but if not parents, someone else.
100%.
Leaders or
I've got people in my world who fully open with.
No, 100%, guys. Definitely seek a form of counsel, because there's always somebody who can see something that you're not seeing.
100%.
God will work through people.
And even just to edify. And to solidify and to go, yes, that is the right person. Made me feel so confident. Because this is someone who trusts, who is on board with Claire and with Claire. So I'm like, I can run with this. But anyway, carry on. Sorry.
Even our pastors who have been married for Lord knows how long, who are leading a church together, explained today that they go to counselling for their marriage. There's like that level of submission to God and that openness. Joe mentioned, I think it's James 5:16, where it talks of confess your sins to one another and pray for each other that you may be healed. That is very powerful to see it from. So sometimes you're having other people around you, even if it's not asking them, just seeing how the people are living will open your mind to different things. What I am interested in knowing is, so you guys have talked a lot about work and the work that you do in terms of strengthening your relationship. And I like that you've mentioned that, because I've got I see a lot of people dreaming for or idolizing these Instagram relationships that just look perfect and whatnot, and not understanding what that takes. Like, if somebody was to meet you guys, I myself can testify to the fact that I'd be like, well, this is a strong relationship.
Oh, thank
But-
you.
But now hearing what you guys, like the amount of work
Yeah.
you put in behind the scenes is
Yeah.
quite interesting. What I want to know is, in seasons where things are not so good, or maybe Claire's done something that you don't agree with, or you've done something that Claire doesn't agree with.
All the time. No, carry on.
How do you guys communicate that to one another?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we've not had loads of seasons like that. There's been a few. Yeah, I know. She's so disagree there.
Disagreement. No, I agree.
But there's been a few. Yeah, there's been a few things we've been slightly disagreed on, or where we can see ourselves going in the wrong direction, where we're like, all right, we need to readjust. I think, okay, we'll tackle those differently. I think we go with disagreements first. The way that she communicated and listened to me and heard what I had to say, for me was probably one of the biggest things that I was like, yeah, this is someone who I want to tackle challenges in life with.
Yeah.
Because she didn't just, although she is quite stubborn, she's like, she listens to my viewpoints and is willing to go, no, maybe, there's something he's saying here. And she doesn't, and she also approaches, well, I try and approach things from, right, what are the kind of, if I'm seeing something wrong, is that because of a past experience, stuff like that, and trying to and reason what I'm seeing and why I'm seeing it. And she, I don't know, you just listen to me, and the way that we discussed things, it wasn't just I'm right, this is how things are, this is what we need to do, but taking a soft approach, I think.
I think that's the approach is with that, like, actually having those conversations.
Yeah.
Like, I think so many people will just try and ignore that stuff and just like sweep stuff under the rug. But I think we've both been quite intentional with like, if there's something bothering one of us, or if something that we feel needs addressed, big or small, actually just going, I'm going to have this conversation. I heard a message one time, someone saying, like, I can't remember if it was a Christian or like a motivational speaker or something, but someone just saying, like, a couple seconds of like uncomfortability is worth it. And like,
I like that.
so if it's something that's making you feel uncomfortable, like, don't sweep it under the rug, like, bring it up, and just have that conversation.
100%.
And as you said, listen
and learning not to be offended.
Yeah.
I think it's a massive one.
For sure. Being willing to be wrong and
Yeah. And like, if Claire brings something up, I need to not go, oh, I've done something wrong, so I'm annoyed and I get defensive. But actually go, no, this is a chance for us to strengthen our relationship,
To grow,
to navigate these things together, because we're not fighting one another. We're fighting things together.
That's a really good mindset shift.
Yeah, exactly. And so getting defensive is actually going to make the other person then get defensive. But when we can actually be open, let our guards down, I think it's massive. And so that's the disagreement side of things, the challenges side of things. I think it's probably similar, like learning how to have conversations first of all, because again, it's easy to just sweep things under the rug. Go, oh, things are difficult, things are challenging, and ignore it. And that's where things go back to boundaries, right? If we start, crossing the boundaries that we'd set in place with the curfews and other various bits, that we had, physical boundaries, to kind of ignore it is easy. And you go, oh, we'll sort it out, things will get better. But the problem is you end up going down the default direction. And when you can actually bringing it up's hard, because you're running the risk of offending the other person, and the risk, and you're opening yourself up to rejection. Because what if they reject what I have to say? But for the sake of the relationship, I remember us saying at the start, or near the start, where we're like, if we say if we're uncomfortable or that, I'm not rejecting you.
Yeah.
And if you say something, I'm not offended.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be offended.
We value the purity more.
We value the purity more,
Yeah.
and our convictions more
Yeah.
than us being offended.
And our feelings,
and so we actually clarified that with each other,
Yeah.
and that was massive. I thought
100%.
really helped us
Yeah.
kind of switch our direction.
Yeah.
And so navigating that stuff together is super important. Just having that open lines of communication.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I agree.
I like it. I think it's good to highlight the fact that the way they communicate is very, very good. Like, it's something to desire, but also understanding that if there's something on your heart or something that you're struggling to understand or you want to bring to the other person, your first point of counsel should be to God. Then that will then open the doors. One, for you to, you may feel something and try and bring it to Claire before you've spoken to God, and the way in which you then present that to Claire, because it's not then guided by the God, may not come out the same way.
Yeah, I think listening to, ultimately the conviction comes from the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
So there's moments where you feel the conviction, and then that conviction should lead you to communication. But oftentimes we'll feel the conviction and then we ignore it and leave it. And so being submitted to God means listening to that voice of conviction that's inside, and then communicate with God. And then I would also, if it's something major, then bringing it with others as well, and being accountable. And bringing other. The more you communicate, the more things are brought into the open, the less the enemy works in the darkness. And when the lights are shut off, and when things aren't said, and in the unseen and the unheard. Whereas when things are spoken, you bring truth to situations. Because when we talk, we're gonna speak truth. We're not gonna speak lies to one another. And so when things are opened and brought up, that's allowing God into the situation, because we're not operating with the lights off and with in the darkness, but with things open and they're able to be worked on. Just
to finish up, I've got a question I always ask everybody. Guys, individually, what are your favorite Bible verses and why? Just one from each of you, please.
One of my favorites is Jeremiah 29:11, which is one of the have for you, close the Lord, plans to prosper, plans to give you hope in the future. I think that's one I kind of cling to whenever I'm feeling discouraged or in all kind of seasons of life, to know that God's plans are to prosper me. And, if challenges are coming my way or things I'm facing, God's plans are good and I can trust him, and he's faithful.
He is indeed.
My favorite.
That's good. Mine's Jeremiah 1:5, which is about before I knew you, I appointed you as my prophet to the nations. And it's but that's kind of one that's been spoken over my life. So that's probably my favorite. I was trying to think of one of my other ones that I like that apply to relationships, but I couldn't think of one on the spot. There's loads, but that one's for me.
You guys already know, man. It's at the start of the video. If you wish to check it out, John 16 verse 33, as always. I won't say it because I like people to go and look at it. Thank you guys very much for coming on. It's been a blessing to have you on. Very insightful, even for me personally. I've collected a lot that I'm going to take forward.
I'm glad.
And we wish you, from the Sheep to the Shepherd family, we wish you the best in your relationship. We look forward to seeing what's going on. Right. Guys, that's all from us. Have a blessed day and take care.
See you later.